Hello, this is Bill Scheid, and I have the privilege and the honor to be with Dr. Ken Long, who is my mentor and the creator of the first generation of monthly systems. You can find Dr. Ken Long at tortoisecapital.net if you haven't seen his work yet. Ken, thanks so much for taking the time.
Hey, it's a real pleasure, Bill. Always great to see you. Much love to the family. I don't know about the mentoring as much as partnering, because I'll be honest, and I've learned a ton from you on everyday trading and living. It's always a treat for me to work with you. So
Thank you. Thanks so much. Well, the topic of this video is the applicability of monthly systems to retirement accounts. And I just want to pop up a couple reasons that these systems work so well. And I also just want to say, for anyone watching, that monthly systems were, for me, the very first system that I ever traded. And I learned these systems from you, Ken, during the time that I was in the Super Trader program at VTI. And one of the things that I really loved about the monthly system was the fact that because it rebalances monthly, it avoids trading frequency restrictions. And the first monthly system that I ever traded was in my wife's retirement account, and her employer only allows rebalancing once a month. I wonder if you have any color to add about this point.
well, the main thing about the monthly rebalancing is that it gives you a time discipline and a freedom from following the news. It doesn't even allow you to react, and it actually helps you by not paying attention to the news. You're less likely to be moved by the emotions of the herd. It actually enforces that systemic discipline of doing periodic adjustments with a simple rule set, and that automatically puts you on the right side of the scales, um, to avoid the hysterical overreactions of the herd, either chasing a market up or running away from it on the downside.
Yes, absolutely. And one of the things that what I heard in your feedback there, it reminds me that we can also change the rule set so that we rebalance quarterly. And
Yeah.
that's another idea that I learned from you. And we talk about that in some of the research that we share in our courses. And that's a way to zoom out even further and avoid that herd panic. Um, the other thing that I really love about monthly systems is that they're so easy to implement. And for a number of reasons that I want to just run through it, and I'm sure you're going to have a lot to say about this. They're easy to implement because there's no technical analysis. There are no chart patterns. There aren't even any indicators for the monthly systems. And what I love about them personally is that they are rules-based mechanical systems that are 100% based on math. So for me, my trading background before I started studying with you, I was trying to trade discretionary systems. And for me, it just was not a fit for my trading personality. So I personally love the fact that they're rules-based mechanical, they're 100% based on math, and they take less than an hour per month to execute. And then you can get your signals from really simple sources. You can calculate them in Excel, or there's services like etfreplay.com. So it's super easy to know what to do. There's no gray area. It's very simple, very black and white. Any
Yeah,
color to add, please?
there's probably three areas where the individual retail trader lags behind the systematic trader. It's emotions, math, and focus.
Hmm.
Um, when you have a system that takes the emotions out of it, you're you're 100% better than someone that's trying to live inside their feelings while they're trading their money. Um, the second one is math. Uh, I don't know why, but 90% of the people will think that math is too hard and it's complicated or has to be difficult and painful. So if you have found a way to apply simple, robust math to your decision making, you're already well ahead of the curve and well ahead of the herd when it comes to making your decisions. And then the ability to focus. You know, when it's only going to take an hour a month, that gives you the rest of the month free to do everything else you want to do. Someone who doesn't have a system like that um, is typically going to be living with their trades all the time, waiting every day for the next decision to come, and suffering through the gains and losses while waiting for their chance to make a decision. The pressure to override your rules is extraordinary, but the emotional cost of suffering through the intervals is really, really painful. So that's why most folks have a hard time following simple systems like this, is because they can't resist the urge to tinker. And so I think the positive features of what you've shown here make it easy to execute. And then the evidence of the system makes it easier to believe in it and to just let the rules be the rules. Let them do what it is you need it to do so you can get on with the other parts of living a complete and whole life.
Yeah, I couldn't agree more. And I remember when I first started trading this, to your point about math, the math behind these systems is so simple, but it's so powerful. And it just made me realize how I was not using math in the trading I was doing before I started studying with you. And I recently heard a quote, there are three there are three types of people in the world, those who are good at math and those who are not.
Exactly.
And I am one who's actually, I don't have a math degree. I can do basic math, and that's actually all you need for these systems is just some basic math, and the results are just really remarkable when you
Yeah,
apply
I mean,
it.
back of the envelope math, farmer's math.
Yeah,
The farmer looks at the temperature outside and says, "Yeah, it's about time to plant." And that's about as complicated as it needs to be.
yeah,
Um, over over complicating things is one of the consequences of too much math. I mean, you can have too much of a good thing, I suppose. And if you try to overcomplicate it, math will help you find ways to overcomplicate it, but it doesn't need to be complicated as long as you're zeroed in on the things that matter, and that's relative performance over the same time period among a population of choices. The cream will rise and the leaders continue to lead until they don't. And it turns out that monthly analysis is plenty of time for you to see the change in the composition of the pack of the herd. And when the winners have moved to the front, it's easy to focus on them and watch them continue to win. When they start to fail, that monthly rebalancing reflects the time when they're over. So maybe the hardest thing to do without math is pick the winners, except for getting off the winner once its time is done, because it has been successful. You want to stay with it in case it becomes successful again, but the discipline of that math allows you to be on it while it's working, and to let it go when it has stopped performing in a dispassionate, unemotional way. And knowing when to let go is pretty key. Also, I would make that point about the system as well.
yeah, yep. And one of the things that I really resonated with when I first learned monthly systems from you was the sheer amount of academic research that just proves the whole hypothesis you just laid out, how powerful the math is, the relative performance. There's just reams and reams of research and book after book after book about that. The other thing that I really appreciate about monthly systems is that it works with restricted fund choices. Like I said, the first monthly system I ever ran was in my wife's retirement account. They have, in my view, terrible choices, very limited. But I also remember in one of the first courses I ever took with you, you talked about in one of your accounts from the military that you had even fewer choices than her. Do you want to add any color to that?
Well, sure. My thrift savings plan with my military retirement account um, only offers the S&P 500, the Russell 2000 small cap, and then the blended Euro Asian large caps as the three opportunities to choose your engine of growth. So that's not very, that doesn't seem to be robust, but it actually turns out to be enough to get the main advantage of rotating among targets. So you can make it more complicated than that, but it doesn't need to be. As long as you have a couple clear choices, about which way to go, it'll follow the macro trend that's in play, and that's going to lead to a robust advantage in fund selection. Your other part of your rules on fund timing allows you to be protected when the global markets are all going down together, and being able to avoid that is half the battle, maybe more. So being selective among the leaders when the horses are running, that's a choice. And then knowing when to step aside based on global macro conditions is sort of the other choice. So you get those two things right, and we'll see that just how powerful that advantage really is.
Yes. And speaking of looking at the powerful results that these systems can generate, we're about to take a look at results from a system, a monthly system called PMA SPY. And it ties in perfectly with this whole idea of restricted fund choices because this system works with exactly one index, and that's the S&P 500. So you're either in the S&P 500 or you are in cash. And I think everyone's retirement account, no matter how restricted the fund choices are, certainly has the S&P 500. And so let's take a look at the results. And I'd be interested to hear your reflections on the numbers that we have here, comparing S&P buy and hold, 60/40 buy and hold. So that's 60% stocks, 40% bonds, and then the PMA SPY system, which is actually credit to you. It's an evolution of one of the first generation monthly systems that I learned from you starting back in 2011.
Yeah, this one really shows the power of the market on all other performers, because this isolates the results just to what we would conventionally think of as the market, the S&P 500. That's the drummer that sets the beat for the entire world. Two things to notice. One of them is that it has about a 20% performance improvement over the regular S&P buy and hold, 383 versus 323. That's about 20%. And it not only gets 20% better returns, but it also does it at half the risk. So you might think, well, I could either get more return or less risk. This is one that shows you that the conventional wisdom in that is wrong, and that you can actually get both. And so just the effect of timing and the ability to avoid the worst of the meltdown situations shows you the advantage of your timing element. And then if you compare that to the allegedly risk informed 60/40 buy and hold, the reason to move things out of the growth and into the bonds is to sort of smooth out your volatility, and it actually does compared to standard S&P buy and hold, but it does so at a cost of 70% underperformance between 320 and 116. So you have to give up two-thirds of your gains in order to get a 35% reduction in your risk in terms of the max drawdown. Well, you might think you'd have to make that choice to reduce volatility, but if you actually look at when you look at the PMA system, you're getting more than the returns of buy and hold, and at half the, but even when you compare it to 60/40, you're getting more than triple the returns, and you still have better risk management, 26 versus 34. So it actually shows you can do better in both of those decisions about how to optimize your gains and how to protect against risk. And you can do that in a single system. And this one, I just love this one because it really shows the effect of timing your markets and managing your risk, what that does over the long term. Conventional wisdom says you can't do that. I hope the rest of the world keeps believing that, because it makes it easier for this system to operate.
Yes. Thank you, Ken. Thank you so much for taking the time to connect and share your reflections and your thoughts on this. If you're watching this video and you have not checked out Ken's work, you can find him at tortoisecapital.net. If you're interested in learning more about the PMA SPY system or the other second generation monthly systems that have evolved out of Ken's work, you can find more at appliedfinanceresearch.com. Ken, thanks so much for taking the time to be here.
Just it's always a pleasure to be here. I encourage you to keep doing what you're doing. You're providing a service to the people so that they may thrive. And that's a real blessing to be able to work with you. Take good care.
Thank you so much, Ken.